All right, let's go.
Mr. Jason, what a great pleasure having you with us again. The last
Thanks again, Ramon.
interview, yes, my brother is. I think we have a great task, which is to spread our voice and send the message and make sure that people receive it because there are so many misconceptions. Basically driven by the prohibition that when anything that you say that can be done with cannabis or hemp, most people say, but no, that's impossible. No, it's not impossible. And that is one of the reasons that I personally support you for your candidacy to the federal elections, um, because I see that the promise that we have put out there of 100,000 homes in 4 years, or even less. It depends how we set up our project management style. I'm sure that we can achieve this and more because we have the resources to do it. Money, the land, the water. We have extraordinary farmers. We have a construction sector that is basically hard due to the crisis, but more important, that is a supply chain that we can easily activate if we change the law. Welcome back, Jason. This is your platform. This is Hemp Engineering, and this section is called Drop of Knowledge. So you're welcome to spread your word and let's make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about.
Well, thank you, Ramon. It's great to be on your podcast again. Just for those listeners who haven't met me before, my name is Jason Meotti. I'm the WA lead Senate candidate for Legalized Cannabis Party for election that pre-polling starts tomorrow. So everybody get ready to go because we hit the ground running tomorrow morning. But I wanted to talk to you in particular about that ambitious goal of 100,000 homes in 4 years, Ramon. And look, I really honestly think that the only material where that is going to be doable is hemp. To get that many homes built in that sort of time with what we need and with supply chains being what they are globally at the moment, because everybody's got a high housing crisis. This is not unique to Australia. Most countries
Agree.
are facing a housing crisis through a lack of investment by governments over many decades into social housing, and now the chickens come home to roost, so to speak.
Yes.
But I do see that hemp is the game changer in all of this, and in particular for Western Australia. The Southwest Division or the Southwest area of WA has over 1 million hectares of salt degraded land. Now, as we've discussed, it's sort of 2 to 3 hectares of hemp per house. So without even using any current land that's been used for agriculture, we could be growing that many houses every 14 weeks. Every 14 weeks, we could be producing the amount of
Easily.
hemp to build,
Easily.
200,000 hectares, 300,000 hectares, and we've got 100,000 homes basically there to go. Now, it's not that simple, obviously, Ramon, for multiple reasons. A is that we haven't got the capacity to process that much hemp at the moment if it was to be produced.
Agree.
And B, we've got very outdated laws surrounding hemp because hemp is deemed to be a narcotic, exactly the same as cannabis.
Or
So even
heroin.
though,
Or
oh,
heroin or
heroin,
cocaine, which
everything
is
else,
doesn't make even sense.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But look, it is what it is. So if we take the situation with hemp of the plant, the only parts of the plant that are likely to have any trace of THC are the flowers and the leaves. Now,
Yes.
the leaves are very low concentrate THC anyway. And even the flowers, well, the hemp is grown for seeds, right? You want seeds with hemp. Now, if you're growing cannabis to consume, right, so for personal use, you don't want seeds anywhere
I
near
don't
it.
think so.
I've seen people's beards and dreadlocks catch on fire from exploding
Yes.
seeds. So you don't want that. And when the seeds are produced by the plant, that sucks up all of the THC. So we're talking about industrial hemp that's got 0.1% of THC in it. So there's nothing. And even then, if you were to go and eat, you could even go and eat a field of hemp. You're not going to get anything out of that because you've got to activate the THC. You've got to
Yes.
activate the THC 160, 140, 160 degrees at least, right, to activate it. So if it doesn't get heated up, it's not going to, there's no harm to it. So it's quite ridiculous, and that's the problem. And we found this out talking with Gary and Georgina down at the Margaret River Hemp Company earlier this week when we launched our $600 million hemp innovation fund, which I'll talk to in a minute. But that they produce one of the fibers that's particularly desired by textile manufacturers in China in particular. They've got a contract with them. It's called long bast or bast, long bast fiber.
Long bast,
right?
Yes.
Now it looks like an old Hessian bag basically that's been pulled apart in its form. It's very stringy and strawy, right? That is actually deemed to be a narcotic because it comes from the hemp plant. So in order to export that, they have to get permission from the Australian Office of Drug Control. Like, this is the ridiculousness of the situation that we're in. There's no THC in the stalk anyway to start with. You might as well, go and smoke a tomato. You're going to get the same buzz out of it as you would if you smoke this stuff. It's nothing in it. So this is where we need to have reasonable and rational law reform. And it might well be in the first instance that we got to separate hemp out from personal use cannabis and legalise industrial hemp federally, and then at the state level to release the shackles of this industry, because that's all it needs is the regulation to come off it, to be treated like any other broadacre crop, and it will transform farming in this country. I mean, absolutely. Agriculture.
Completely.
Farming will become again a very profitable business to be involved in, because you can be growing hemp, as we said, on degraded land. Particularly in the southwest, you could grow a summer crop. So when your land's not being used at all, you could grow hemp in summer because of the rain that the southwest gets, which is going to replace and replenish the soil. Every time you plant hemp, you've helped the environment. You've put, just by the act of growing hemp, you put more carbon in the soil than before you started. So even if all of the hemp got used and say as biofuel, for example, got turned into biodiesel, even after you've burnt that biodiesel, you've still taken more carbon out of the atmosphere because you've grown it. So it solves the climate crisis. It can solve the housing crisis. But there's the other thing that's holding back the housing side of it, is that if we're going to make a huge dent in the housing crisis, it's going to have to be with fast, mass-produced houses, right? We're not going to be able to build the brick and tile housing that a lot of us are used to, a lot of us live in, not straight away, right? Not straight away. We've got to just build basically housing for now, right? And hemp can do that. And hemp can be that gap, I guess, that gap plugger, while we then build out into, we build out and we build up to our more long-term housing. So housing that you're going to hope for the last 100 years or more. Whereas if we can get this sort of thing going, but in order to do that, there needs to be some federation reform. And I'm a big advocate for federation reform, as you know, Ramon. We basically haven't tinkered seriously with our federation since federation, really, go back 125 years. We started to get somewhere through COVID. We did have the states and Commonwealth working together, and we did get some things done. But unfortunately, so many other things weren't. And one of them is building codes. So in order for prefabricated factory-built housing, the codes change all over the country. So West Australia is different to Victoria, is different to Queensland. And for mine, that makes the most sense straight away. Let's come up with a standardisation of building, bring hemp in, because hemp is still viewed, hemp and hempcrete and those sort of things are still viewed as if it's naughty, if it's bad, that it's somehow inherently evil because it's come from this cannabis plant. I find it mind-blowing that a plant has been so demonised for a century when it can be the saviour. But to be honest with you, I've thought about it, particularly after our event last night, the campaign launch at the 420 event at the City Farm. Great event it was too, well organised and brilliant.
Yes.
And I thought, well, you think about all the industries that if hemp really got going, right, if we really had downstream processing and manufacturing of the 50-odd thousand things that hemp can be used for, that's probably spells trouble for the timber industry, the fiberglass industry,
yes,
for the
the
steel
brick industry, the brick industry.
because this is a product that is quick growing, it's renewable, it's biodegradable, and it performs better than a lot of those other things. So I think that there's been a bit of ulterior motive in a lot of the, demonization of cannabis in order to keep hemp down, right? And that just needs to stop. We just need to wake up and be grown-ups and go, look, hemp is simply an outstanding plant. It is an outstanding plant.
The solution of the challenges of our times. I work with the Australian Hemp Council. We are in this moment reviewing the construction codes at federal level as well. There has been already a code approved in the United States, which is what we want to adopt. Same in South America, which is very simple to follow. There is not much science in it. However, besides the benefits that hempcrete can bring to the construction, housing, building industry, is the fact that we are going to minimize the use of sand, which is basically depleted all around the world.
Yes.
So it's a big problem in the construction business. Hemp is the solution. All we need to do is just get a good lime mine, grow like hell, retrain our people one way or another, and we can become the hub of the business in the whole world. We have all the conditions, we have all the resources. My point, this is one of the things that our party has a breakthrough in many ways, because the level of knowledge in this side of the party compared with the level of knowledge in the Labour Party, the Liberal Party, or the rest, except a little bit of the Green, their level of ignorance is so overwhelming that they shouldn't be running. It's a disgrace. Not all you need to do is just go to Google, do 2 browsers there, and you're going to get the light.
Two types of ignorance, Ramon. There's those that are ignorant by choice, and those who are just simply ignorant of the truth. And unfortunately, many of the politicians, and I'm going to extend that out to the Greens party, because I can't remember was the last time you heard the Greens talk about him.
Well, every time that
I've never heard the Greens talk about him.
Like, every time that there is election, they want to talk about cannabis.
No, well, they've done their messaging bill last year on cannabis, which was never going to get up. And that, realistically speaking, our party is the party that will make it happen. Like, it's in our name. It's in our name. So this is our, and because of that, we don't just have a one-size-fits-all approach to this. We'll take whatever we can get through the Parliament. We've got to understand that Parliament is, and particularly the Senate, where I'm going to be, it's a house of review, right? And it needs to become that house of review, not ramming 40 bills through in an afternoon that we saw at the end of last year. That is not good government. That's a shit show, quite frankly. And no wonder people turn off, because how can you be running a government where you're forcing 40 bills through, no discussion, no comment, no nothing? It's just bang, bang, bang. And, I'll put it to you again, Ramon, that if the Greens were really serious about cannabis and hemp law reform, they could have used their leverage in that exercise to have got some very, very safe laws through, which would have simply just reclassified cannabis and not taken it out of the narcotics bracket and the schedule as narcotic, because it's not. I tell you how many death certificates have been produced on this planet with cannabis as the cause of death, Ramon. It's that many. Zero.
Zero.
How dangerous a drug can it be if it can't kill you, I would say.
Well, let me put it this way, Mr. Jason. It is not our party's fault that the people in the Liberals and the Nationals or Labour, they're weak. They cannot stand to pop because they break. We don't want them in our party. We don't want them. We
both,
want lions. We want to bring lions and help us to build up the nation that we want. They have a puff and they go breaking. We don't want them. They're weak.
the problem with the major parties is they're absolutely petrified of this label of being soft on drugs, right? Which I never get. Like, how do you be hard on an inanimate object? You know, they have a war on chainsaws because chainsaws kill more people than cannabis does. You know, we don't, do we? Because it's it's not the chainsaw's fault, is it? It's the person using it. And I guess that's the argument with drugs. It's not the drugs, but the people that use it. So with cannabis, it doesn't kill you at all. So really, this is why I say maybe we need to split hemp and cannabis and personal use cannabis apart. Because as I see it at the moment, the priority is the housing crisis, it's the environmental crisis, it's the economic crisis. And hemp and in WA, and I'm going to say WA, and I'm a WA senator, so that's my job, is to look out for WA. In WA, we could be alone, just WA, we could be the third biggest hemp producer in the world in a matter of a couple of years. We had 250,000 hectares under crop. We would be the third biggest producer in the world. So that's where the $600 million innovation fund comes in, Ramon, because at the moment there is just not infrastructure to process or to do the downstream processing with those products in order to turn them into building materials, turn them into biofuel. You know, the mining companies could literally be growing their own fuel on their tenements. So where they're mining, they could be planting hemp, harvesting the hemp and converting it into biodiesel to run their machinery, having a carbon positive effect on the planet and not having to spend millions, if not billions of dollars upgrading to electric fleets in the idea that's the way forward. Well, you know, even in an electric fleet, it's what's powering or how is the batteries being charged? What's the power source? Now at the moment, it's coal and gas, isn't it? And with a bit of renewables during the day. So even that's not exactly doing. This will work better because you're growing hemp, carbon positive exercise. The biofuel ratio with hemp is really high. So the efficiency is about 97%. So 97% of the product or of the starting product, the herd, I think in the case of biodiesel, they make it out of herd, is able to be converted into biodiesel. So it's highly efficient. And like I said, it's a renewable source. They can be growing their fuel every 14 weeks on their tenement. So I see this as a game changer for the mining industry in Western Australia as well, particularly as they move towards, carbon neutral.
If I may, Mr. Jason, I would like to reinforce something that you are specifically talking. 2 years ago, I attended an invitation by the several companies in India. I'm the founder and CEO of Hemp Engineering. My company has been preparing ourselves for this boom. We have not only the skills set and the capacity to carry on very large multi-billion-dollar project, but we have set up already the supply chain. We have the technology to convert the hemp into biodiesel. We have it. Don't forget that I come from the oil and gas company as well. I was there used to design and build oil and gas refinery. But the technology to transform hemp into biodiesel is already there. It's in India. It's a best company. The name of the company is SQ. It is part of a conglomerate of companies that I have the honor to belong to. The CEO of the company is a personal good friend. He owns a company that is called Awega in India, which also have a global presence like Hemp Engineering. However, what we are intending to do is, once again, synchronize all these supply chains and build the technology that we already have in place. We're not interested in building one house there, two houses there, because that's not building an industry. That is building for the rich people. We want to set up the infrastructure so that we can actually deliver large housing projects as we need in Australia using hemp. That is what we want. And with your support, with party support, the federal government support, we can break through that and beyond, because hemp is the solution of the challenges of humanity. And what I believe here in Perth can become the hub of the business. That's my thinking, that's my vision. I have several people who are intending to do so. We have a private initiative as well to create a similar with our $600 million to found a tool or a support for us to do what we need to do. We're doing it privately as well. Actually, one of my investors has already bought a big land in the hills that we're intending to do this privately. But as you know, our business is very slow. Sometimes it doesn't go as fast as we want.
Look, like I said, the problem with the hemp industry at the moment is it's been absolutely crushed with regulation, absolutely drowning in it. And it's just got to go. It doesn't serve any useful purpose other than the fact, and this is, we come back to the demonization of cannabis, you know, this THC content in hemp, it's treated as if it was like kryptonite or something, or fentanyl, or plutonium, or some like highly dangerous, destructive substance that we just can't abide by, and it's ridiculous. Even in a hemp crop that goes above 1%, which at the moment in WA means you have to destroy the entire crop, right? So if your THC content goes up 1%, you just cannot get anything out of that, right? You just cannot get enough out of that plant in order to get high, if that's what you're chasing, right? It's ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that. So this is why we need to just remove THC out of the equation, all right? If you're planting a certified industrial hemp strain, and there's thousands of them, we know, you're planting it, that's all you need to do. Once you've planted it, then you grow that plant as best you can. And that's what we need the agricultural department to focus on, not on the THC content, but how to get the best rate of return, how to get the best rate of fiber return, flower return, seed return, because of course at the moment, you can't use the flower or the leaf of hemp in WA. Right?
The summary is that we just simply need to change the law. We need to change the law.
Yes.
The law is wrong. The law is wrong.
Yeah. So, well, it's a law based on a lie, and that's the fundamental aspect of it. And I will be calling for Australia to leave the international convention, single convention on narcotics. It is, once again, it's an institution that's been set up on a lie that has never succeeded, never will succeed, and its mission of eradicating certain drugs that up until 100 years ago, let's remember that up until 100 years ago, mankind used cannabis and cocaine and opium and all the other plants that God gave us, if we want to go down that path, because God, it's all here on the planet for us. Responsibly, we use it for medical reasons, we use it for social, for religious, and we did it responsibly. Okay, not always, but mankind's got a bit of a habit of not behaving itself, hasn't it? It always finds something mess themselves up with, alcohol, whatever. So we really need to get back to a point where we treat these substances for what they are. They're natural products. They do need to be regulated, but that's the problem at the moment. Nothing is regulated. It's an unregulated market. And so that is costing our hospitals, that is costing our schools money that should be going to criminal organisations and individuals. Individuals, I might add, who are hiding in plain sight. So don't tell me that a multi-billion-dollar industry in this country, all of that money is ending up in the hands of bikies and the dope dealer at the local pub, right? That's not where the money's ending up. It's ending up in the very wealthy people's pocket. And I would argue that anybody who supports the current war on drugs is somehow profiting from it and wants it to continue.
Absolutely.
And
Jason, that is the hard part to understand. Two things. Our government is so strong in their intelligence forces, the police, everything. They know. It's a very small country, very large in territory, but very small. We're only, 22, 23 million people. the
26, I
control,
think we're up to now.
the control that the government has over telecommunications, what we write, they know everything, but they don't know who is controlling the crime, who is controlling the cannabis in the country.
I think
Oh
they
yeah,
do.
of course they do. But the worst
Pretty sure
part,
they do.
just in our few minutes before we hang out our chat, is that we are a capitalist country. We believe in capitalism. We believe that capitalism is feeding the socialism scheme that the government has over the needy people. So if we believe in capitalism, what is the fear that this product compete with the rest of the products that are destroying the planet?
Well,
That's the bottom line.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And if you look at it, prohibition is actually a communist construct. It's a communist construct. They're trying to control the market. They're not allowing the market to operate in a capitalist model, right? So effectively saying, all right, well, we're going to control the market, which is we're trying to make it zero, which of course they can't make it zero, and they'll never make it zero. No, they'll never get rid of drugs as we know it. But the one thing that, and this is the irony, shall we say, or the lunacy of the situation we're in, the insanity of the situation that we currently exist in. What was Einstein's theory of insanity? So keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. That's the definition of insanity in the drug war. But if you look at it, if you talk to the people who support the drug war, say, what do you want as an outcome? Now everybody's given up on the fact we're not going to get rid of drugs. Say, oh, well, we want people to use less of them, and particularly young people. So we want effectively our teenagers to not try, mind-altering substances. Well, guess what happens everywhere in the world, including in Western Australia, when drug laws have been relaxed, so we've gone to decriminalisation and or legalisation, guess what? Drug usage rates amongst teenagers drops. It goes down. So that what the outcome that they want, they're actually doing the opposite at the moment on. And I think that truth needs to get out there. And I spoke recently.
Agree, 100%. 100%.
I spoke recently with a couple of incoming Liberal Party politicians, West Australian Liberal Party politicians. And I told them this. I told them that statistic. They didn't have a clue. They had no idea. And it comes back to your ignorance issue. Are they ignorant because they're just ignorant, or they're ignorant by choice? And I think it's by choice. They don't want to know the truth about this because it brings it brings 100 years of lies unstuck. And that's really hard for a lot of people to accept.
Well, in 1986, the Berlin Wall fell down. Soviet Union collapsed. So they had to eat their own truth. So we're going to have to eat our own truth, because while we are being capitalist, free, and all this, what they call a communist China is the greatest exporter of hemp on earth. That's the truth. And don't make it this up. And then we blame them as communists and this and the intervention. But we are the ones who are doing this. Not them.
I don't think everyone calls China's not a communist state anymore. They're a controlled state. They're like Russia and like America's becoming. They're becoming a dictator. They're a dictatorship. But they've got a market economy, right? They've got small business, and that's the thing that's dying in Australia is small business. And I grew up on a farm, right? And my nearest neighbours were quite some way away, but you could make a living and you could have a good life on a small area of a farm, right? Once upon a time, but you can't now. And so that's the problem. That's what we've seen in regional areas is the shrinkage of the towns and the areas, because it's get big or bust, basically. So you've had farmers be bought out by, there'd be a particular farmer. So instead of having 10 farmers in an area, you've got one now. So that's 9 families that are gone. With hemp and growing hemp as an off-season crop, or in your degraded areas or whatever, or using it as a rotational crop to rest areas rather than leaving them fallow, you actually plant hemp, and hemp will improve the soil, put nitrogen in, put carbon in. We can make it viable again for those small farmers to be able to run a profitable exercise, bring people back out into the regions, right? Because it's a great lifestyle out in the country. It is. And West Australia, I'm a 5th generation West Australian, so you don't get anyone more parochial than me. But we do need to have a Senate inquiry into why West Australian drivers are so shit house. They are absolutely appalling drivers, West Australians. I'm sorry, you can all, I don't know, we're perfectly reasonable individuals get behind a car, and it's sort of like the old instant arsehole joke we had in hotels is just add alcohol, to somebody. Well, in Western Australia, it's just add a car somehow. But, hopefully we'll get past that. We get people under a lot of pressure at the moment, so I'll give them a break. But boy, Jingo's Perth, keep left, indicate when you come off a roundabout, and merge. Yes. Just like leave a gap for the car in front and merge. Anyway, I'm sidetracked on that one, but
we have come to our time to the ending of our. It has been an extraordinary chat. We have to repeat this because we need to talk about phytoremediation. We have to talk about the possibility of creating a textile business industry in Australia, something that it should be declared, hemp should be declared like a national security issue, because by getting this done, we can guarantee that we can have the minimum raw material to build everything that we need, from housing, biocomposite, batteries, everything. Yeah. Thank you again, my brother, for your time.
Just tell your viewers, Ramon, vote 1, legalize cannabis. If you want to send a message to the big parties, put us first, particularly in the Senate, and then pick your next favourite team after that. But we need
whichever
your vote.
They want. Yes.
You can change the world, but we can't do it alone.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you, Ramon.
Love and peace.